We also just think it's important to protect American users. Again, we want users to use this platform the way they want to.
Did we give up on passing laws completely? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the previous administration passed this one. Trump just basically slam dunked it. As a matter of fact, he gave China and TikTok a stay of execution until he could put together a favorable deal. Let's go.
It could happen. Maybe it could happen.
Another executive order.
We want the hostages back. We want the bodies back. And we want to have peace in that region. So we had some very good talks. As you know, I had President Erdogan here, Turkey, and we had a great meeting today. I think we had a meeting that was very conclusive in so many different things that we wanted, things that he wanted, and that was good. We'll be announcing that sometime later. And he'll be making an announcement too, but we had a great meeting with Turkey, and they're a very respected president, and spent time, we had lunch, and we had a lot of good discussions, so those two things. And we have some executive orders today to sign that are very important, and we'll start off with one that's a proclamation, and yes, sir. Want to do that, Will?
Yes, sir. So today is Gold Star Mothers and Families Day. This is an annual proclamation. This is to commemorate the fallen, those who have died for all of our freedoms and for our country, and for their families who have suffered such grievous losses. But this is a proclamation commemorating Gold Star Mothers and Gold Star families.
Yeah, and they're great people, incredible people. What they've had to go through. Very few people could have gone through this kind of thing. Gold Star. Okay, thank you very much. He'll put it over here, Steve.
Next, sir, we have an executive order on TikTok. From the first days of your administration, you've charged a team from your administration, led by Vice President Vance, with ensuring that we can preserve TikTok as a platform for the 170 million Americans who use it, while ensuring that their data is properly protected as required by law. With this executive order, you will be effectively bringing into effect the agreement that will save TikTok and ensure that it can operate safely and securely.
So this is interesting because I had a very good talk with President Xi, a lot of respect for him. Hopefully he has a lot of respect for me too. And we talked about TikTok and other things, but we talked about TikTok, and he gave us the go-ahead. You know, it's run by American investors and American companies, great ones, great investors, the biggest. You don't get bigger, I don't imagine. And maybe I'll have JD. JD was very much involved and in charge of it. And maybe I'll have you say a few words about the deal. He would report back, and the points of the deal, I think, are great for our country. So, JD, do you want to give it a little talk, please?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So thank you, sir, for your leadership and for your help. We really couldn't have done this without the president actually ushering this deal over the finish line. There was some resistance on the Chinese side, but the fundamental thing that we wanted to accomplish is that we wanted to keep TikTok operating, but we also wanted to make sure that we protected Americans' data privacy as required by law, both because it's the right thing to do, but also because it's a legal requirement of the law that was passed last year by Congress. So we think that we were able to do that. Of course, we're going to keep on working at it, but this deal really does mean that Americans can use TikTok, but actually use it with more confidence than they had in the past, because their data is going to be secure and it's not going to be used as a propaganda weapon against our fellow citizens. We're very excited about it. We appreciate the cooperation of everybody involved, and it's a big day.
And I think I can say that especially the young people, they really wanted this to happen. They did not want to have TikTok close. And I got a little used to TikTok. I used it myself during the campaign, and it was very successful because you know how I did with the young voter. And Charlie helped me a lot too, and he said to me, you should go on TikTok. And it actually had, because we got record votes with the young voter, as you know, for the election. So I was a little bit prejudiced.
Dog, we are so cooked, by the way.
It was very good. And
Larry Ellis,
but we have American investors taking it over, running
every
it,
single
highly
outlet.
sophisticated.
Every single outlet, from
Larry
mainstream news, obviously, as we knew already,
Oracle, I guess, is gonna
down
be
to
play a very big role in terms of security,
independent
safety,
social media platforms that are supposed to be independent, comprised heavily of like user-generated
Literally, I would
content
get a call
are now
from friends of
completely
mine who were
captive.
fathers of young people saying, "Could you do me a favor? Could you get it approved, please? My son
There is
driving me
nothing.
crazy."
There is no.
So we're getting it
I
done,
don't
and
know
they have a
what
big
this is going to
audience,
look like. I don't know what level of
we've
suppression
made
that they're
American
going to
investors.
immediately implement. It seems like for TikTok, they've already designed it in a way ahead of time before this sale took place, that they already brought in like an anti-Semitism czar, stuff like that.
Jeff?
But Larry Ellison, the mega billionaire Oracle founder and the IDF's largest private donor, is now taking control of both CBS, Paramount, TikTok, and maybe even potentially CNN. They will have control over not only the content, but also user data as well. It is so
It's
insanely
owned by
cooked.
Americans. And very sophisticated Americans and people that love the country and very smart Americans too. So they don't want anything like that to happen. Yes, please.
Thank you. Is there any operational relationship with Chinese entities or staff to execute this?
Larry Ellison's
With who?
son is the one who purchased Paramount.
This is going to be American operated all the way.
So do not use
And,
TikTok. Got it? That's not what I'm saying.
Great respect.
I'm just
for
saying be
President
careful.
Xi, and I very much appreciate that he approved the deal. Because
I'm going to keep,
to get it done properly, we really needed the
just as I haven't
support
given
of
up
China
on
and the
Twitter
approval of China.
regardless,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I see at least some benefits despite the fact that it's a hellish nightmare
Do you want to see the algorithm
of epic proportions.
MAGA-related content?
I'm going to keep using any outlet that I can.
If I could, I'd make it 100% MAGA related. It's actually a good question, but I would, yeah, if I could make it 100% MAGA, I would, but it's not going to work out that way, unfortunately. No, everyone's going to be treated fairly. Every group, every philosophy, every policy will be treated very fairly. Thank you.
Mr. President, do you know the valuation? Do you know the American company is going to be valued in billions?
Well, they valued it very highly. They're paying a big number. Do you want to talk, Scott? Do you want to say something about value?
Well, I'll let the Vice
Okay,
President,
good.
and then
JD?
I can follow
And
up.
you'll say something.
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say all credit goes to the Secretary of the Treasury. Couldn't have got it done without Scott. Also couldn't have got it done without Sean Cooksey on my team, so thanks to them. The company will be valued around $14 billion. We actually think this is a good deal for investors, but ultimately the investors are going to make the determination about what they want to invest in and what they think is a proper value. The most important thing is that it does protect Americans' data security. It ensures TikTok is still accessible. And on this question of the algorithm, which we've heard this a lot, what this deal ensures is that the American entity and the American investors will actually control the algorithm. We don't want this used as a propaganda tool by any foreign government. We want to make sure that our people and our investors actually make these decisions based on what's good for their business as opposed to what's good for another government's propaganda arm. So that's what we've done with this deal. I think it's very good for the American people. And as the president said, young people love this. We actually want.
Bro, look at him. Look at him. I don't know what it is. He just looks so suspicious. He looks like he's hiding a secret. Okay? Like, even when he is not the main character of the story, he's still on the sidelines. Looks like he's up to some nefarious bullshit, dude.
Between the investor groups and then Treasury
Like,
and
look,
a group including
he's
the
just
Vice
standing
President's
there.
office were
It
in
looks
Madrid
like, yeah,
2
he's
weeks
standing
ago
there
to
looking like he's
negotiate
hiding
with
a zombie bite at all times, okay?
President Trump's close relationship with Party Chair Xi that we were able
like-
to get this across the line. We created a framework for Party Chair Xi to agree, and then on the leaders' call, Xi and President Trump discussed the final arrangement. So it was 1-2, and that was the final piece.
Will the U.S. government get any kind of annual payment as a result of this deal?
Taxes. It's going to make money, and we're going to get a lot of money in taxes. And you know, China wanted to see this go. It's a great legacy for China too. And, I thought President Xi was great in terms of his approval. We probably, but it wouldn't have been the same. Wouldn't have been the same security at all. But I appreciated that he approved it. It was
So nothing aside from taxes. There's no part of the deal that is like a payment to the U.S. government.
Well, we're going to be announcing different things, but the U.S. comes out great, and I think China comes out great because they're going to have a
Bro,
very
China
important
does not
legacy.
give
And
a
they have
shit about
many other
nothing.
deals. You know, they have deals with us, and they have deals in here in this country.
China's just
And,
they're
you know,
they're
they
trade
wanna be treated
maxing.
fairly
Okay,
also.
they're like,
So,
nope,
and Mr. Vice President,
not gonna touch any of that. We're just trade maxing, baby. La boo boos for all.
The U.S. company will have control over how the algorithm pushes content to users, and that was a very important part of it. We thought it was necessary for the national security element of the law. We also just think it's important to protect American users. Again, we want users to use this
Did
platform
we
the way
give
they
up
want
on
to. We want
passing
the
laws
business
completely?
to make decisions about
I hate to
content
be the
based
bearer
on
of bad news, but the previous administration passed this one.
what happened with this new
Trump just basically slam dunked it. As a matter of fact, he gave China and TikTok a stay of execution until he could put together a favorable deal. This is a bipartisan thing that the Democrats certainly played a formative role in allowing to happen. Make no mistake, just another thing that you should be reminded of, that you should remember next time you hear a Democrat talk about some fucking why we must capitulate to the right on this issue or that issue. Yeah, it was about Israel. That's the reason. They did this because of Israel. Thank God. Am Israel high, baby. You already know it's my favorite country on the planet, most moral nation on the planet. Obviously, duh. Everybody knows this. But I mean, here it is. Like this is what it is. Okay. There it is. There it is. You want to see? You want to see how this TikTok ban / subsequent ownership exchange took place? Why it took place? Here's Jonathan Greenblatt speaking to the Israeli Knesset in Israel. Okay, the CEO and national director of the ADL, also known as the Anti-Defamation League, also known as the Apartheid Defense League. Let's take a look.
You must take this deadly seriously. Pushing extremists off Wikipedia might not seem equal to the challenge of pushing Hezbollah north of the Litani River. Capturing TikTok might seem less meaningful than holding on to Mount Hermon. Libelous tweets certainly might seem less deadly than missiles from Yemen. But this is urgent because the next war will be decided based on how Israel and its allies perform online as much as offline.
Straight up, bro. It's not like this is a secret. Like, he's just saying it, dude. He is just straight up saying it. He just said it, and it happened. Now it's initiated. Here is more evidence for those of you who are wondering. Senator Mark Warner at the Munich Security Conference wants you to know the real story behind the TikTok ban, that Israel was the driving force behind the passage in Congress.
So quickly, if this is correct and there's not a lot of people that understand, somebody understood something.
I want to see if you're going to tell the real story.
Okay, well, first of all, let the record
we're talking
reflect.
About the TikTok legislation.
I left.
There's no AI legislation.
Senator, I left to produce more human beings, and they cost money. They're not making me money. And if everyone had followed Frank and my Irish Catholic lead and repopulated the earth, we would have already won this Cold War competition. How did it pass so quickly? I know we're running out of time. One, we stole the senator's work, and he did a lot of the, sincerely, a lot of the yeoman's work in drafting an initial bill. We were able to sort of learn from that experience. We refined the approach. We worked with him. We worked with the executive branch. So we had a bipartisan consensus. We had the executive branch, but the bill was still dead until October 7th. And people started to see a bunch of anti-Semitic content on the platform. And our bill had legs again. And then there was a huge miscalculation by TikTok. When it became apparent that we were going to pass it out of committee, they forced sort of a pop-up on the app that allowed people to call their members of Congress. And kids were calling into their members of Congress during school hours threatening to commit suicide if TikTok went away. And for those of us who are concerned about the use of this platform for propaganda purposes.
TikTok made a huge mistake, which was the idea that we would follow the democratic wishes of the broad majority of the American public. What a stupid mistake. What a stupid mistake from TikTok or the Chinese government or whoever the fuck. Why would we ever listen to additional demands being made by constituents? What are you, fucking stupid? This is America. Big mistake. If anything, those demands made us way more likely to ban it because the goal was to suppress the flow of information. We are a nation that does not give a fuck when kids die in schools to school shootings. What makes you think children calling up their congresspersons is ever going to move the needle on anything? Be for fucking real.
There's a brainwashing. It sort of proved the point in the moment, and suddenly the bill passed. So it was the threat of espionage, the threat of propaganda, the good work of Senator Warner, and a few other players that all conspired.
And he got it out of a committee that is the most diverse in the House, from left to right, 50-0 after a classified. Yeah, that was he did people would not have bet on, but he and his Democratic colleagues did some great.
But to your point about democracy, I mean, that was a 3.
Why is TikTok a big deal? I get my genocide streams from Insta. I mean, TikTok has genuinely been one of the most consequential ways that broader audiences have actually reached this, have actually seen this information. That is precisely the reason why they took it away. Okay, that's precisely the reason why they were forcing the sell. I mean, they're admitting it right here. How many politicians do you need to hear from? Murphy specifically endorsed banning TikTok in order to suppress speech critical of Israel. In an interview with the Dispatch on Thursday, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, who previously spoke out in favor of restricting TikTok's access in the U.S., said he had moved from supporting regulating the social media platform to an outright ban since October 7 Hamas attack in Israel due to its ability to drive this narrative of hateful speech among young people. Make no mistake, they are not in any way, shape, or form invested in hate speech and combating hate speech at all. Look at goddamn Twitter. Okay? No, they were pissed off that people were developing anti-Israel sentiment. They don't like that you could say fuck Israel on there and reach a mass audience and show exactly why you were saying fuck Israel on there. That's what it is. That's it. That's all this is. And by the way, this doesn't mean that there wasn't a ton of Islamophobic or anti-Semitic or otherwise like super bigoted content on TikTok. You're purposely ignoring the allegations here. I'm going to ban you. Why are you ghosting Minion Discourse? Okay, take a day off. Take 24 hours off, chatter. I don't care to talk about minions right now. Jesus Christ. The way that TikTok is talking about Gaza is designed to divide Americans from each other, he told the digital news outlet. He added that he now thinks it was probably time to say that we shouldn't have a Chinese-owned social media company force-feeding divisive information to our kids. It wasn't any of the bigotries that were exploding on TikTok. It was anti-Israel sentiment. Make no mistake. They do not care about bigotry growing. They do not care about divisive content. If they did, they would pass legislation, which would probably be at odds with the First Amendment regardless. They did it because of anti-Israel sentiment. And it's not like they hide it. Because these are servile beings to their master, the almighty dollar, okay? They very openly were like, yep, we're doing it. We're doing it for Israel. We love it. We love Israel. The fuck are you going to do about it? And people at the time obviously didn't recognize it, or some people did. Some people were frustrated. I mean, obviously its impact has already taken place in terms of like a lot of people that now recognize exactly what happened post October 7. That's why there's so many. That's why there are so many protests happening all around the world. This will continue in other countries regardless. And it's not just about the TikTok ban in America or anything like that. I don't know why, but I've been getting a ton of pro-Palestine content on my TikTok as of 2 days ago, like every other video. Super for that, by the way. Well, for Meta, one way that I have seen Meta restrict this kind of access is they basically bracket you into the pro-Palestine slant. So they stunt your reach to other people that are using the platform, but they just stunt your reach to the pro-Palestine slant. So you think that like people are still seeing your content. In many cases, they are, if you have a big audience like I do, for example, but you're walled off from the rest of the platform. And I think TikTok is probably doing that too, at least for the time being. Because the goal here isn't to like stop all kinds of information from spreading. The goal here is to stop it from spreading to people in the margin, okay? They don't want that information to reach the Barbers and the Debras, for example. They don't want that information to reach the timelines of like people who could potentially be convinced, could potentially see the truth about what Israel is doing. That's why the HasanAbi industrial complex is so important to spread the word. Yeah, that's why I also do a broad array of different types of content and talk about different like things that I care about, cultural issues that I speak on, things of that nature, because like I know that I can reach a broader audience like that, because obviously my commentary is outside of the confines of what is acceptable in mainstream news, than what you would normally encounter, and therefore it requires a tremendous amount of charitability. This is precisely the reason why a lot of the supposedly apolitical actors that do a lot of those like fuck Hassan videos have played a formative role in people never listening to what I have to say, because they've just written me off because the well has been poisoned well ahead of time. So they never actually come here to be like, let me just check. Let me check to see if what these guys are saying is correct. And instead, they just go back to the same places where they go back to the same places where there's just like a steady flow of fuck us on content. The second video TikTok fed me on my secondary phone was Charlie Kirk with 2 million likes. I also got Candace Owens Conspiracy at 800K likes. You don't get Palestine or leftist TikToks unless you search or train your algo. Yeah. I came here to check. Check what? Oh, you mean after seeing like all the fuck us on smears and stuff? Yeah. Here is more evidence of TikTok's role here. For the 170 plus Americans who use TikTok, a White House official confirms to me that President Trump will sign an executive order today approving a deal to move TikTok U.S. operations to the U.S. so the app can continue to be used. A senior White House official lays out some of the details behind the deal. This is the national political reporter for Spectrum News, Taylor Populars. A joint venture to move TikTok U.S. operation to the U.S. The executive order will approve the deal on the U.S. end. Trump has already signed an EO to extend the TikTok ban or sell date through mid-December. TikTok's U.S. algorithm will be controlled by a joint venture. There won't be a U.S. government-selected board member. Oracle will serve as the security provider. U.S. TikTok data is already stored on Oracle servers. They did that long ago. The deal will shift the security terms, which currently are set by TikTok. The joint venture will consist of new and existing investors. The White House feels confident China has approved the deal, no plans for additional talks. A regulatory review will still need to be completed. The White House estimates that the deal will be worth many billions. The White House was able to strong-arm a valuable arm of the platform that is directed at the American market, an incredibly important market for many other international companies, for the record, because it's the most moneyed market out there, right? We are the consumption engine that drives the global economy in many respects. The White House basically said, if you want to keep your entry into the American market, you have to sell this valuable product to American investors. So it's a twofer. On the one hand, you forcibly take something that someone else has created. Once it reaches a level of value where you're like, I want this for my own people, I want this for my own homies. And it also says you do not get to dictate the algorithm any longer. You do not get to have any control over what Americans see. We must set the standard. We must set the tone. We will suppress and we will censor. A good reminder of how significant of a player TikTok has become in the U.S. media ecosystem. Remember, a fifth of U.S. adults now regularly get news on TikTok, up from just 3% in 2020. In fact, during that span, no social media platform we've studied has experienced faster growth in news consumption, according to a new Pew Research Center analysis. It is pretty wild that virtually every single news outlet and virtually every single social media outlet is single-handedly owned by people who are just openly saying that they want to purchase these vectors of information with the grand interest of stamping out anti-Israel content. It feels like I'm going insane. This is like the This is a wonderful gift to obviously all of the anti-Semites who constantly say like Jews control the media, this and that. And it's obviously still very much for Israel and not for Jewish people, considering that there is not a monolithic understanding of this amongst Jews in general. But it will be used beyond designing pro-Israel sentiment. If you think that this stays with Israel, you are dumb. Okay? It's not just going to be stamping out anti-Israel content. It's not just going to stay with that. It's going to be anti-ICE content, for example. It's going to be things that are favorable to the administration. These corporations are servile to the interests of not only other super wealthy individuals, but also the Trump administration. Okay? When the Trump administration decides, hey, LGBT content is getting a little out of hand, we got to do something about it, boom, gone. This is the much needed win that Trump needed. Tariffs failed, exports ban failed, military provocations failed, Asian countries won't fight us, and Europeans won't dare tariff us. Your empire is running out of cards. Yes, it's true.
I'm very dissatisfied with what Russia's doing and
yes,
what
I will
President
watch.
Putin is doing.
I will watch the South Park
killing
episode.
People for no reason whatsoever, and they are doing very poorly considering they have put it all out on the line. Their economy is going to hell. They're bombing the hell out of everything, and they're picking up a very little territory, if any. In fact, they're losing some territory. So I think it's been very bad for the reputation of Russia. This war should have been over. If this were our war, we would have had it over in 1 week. And they're getting into fourth year, Jeff. They're getting into the fourth year now. 4 years of fighting, and you see what they've taken. In the last month, they've taken very little, and you've been reporting on all the bombing, all the drones all over the place, 900 drones coming into certain areas like Kiev in one night. And with all of that work, they've taken over very little. So now I'm very disappointed in President Putin. I thought I solved 7 wars. In fact, we have a great leader coming. We have the Prime Minister of Pakistan coming, and the Field Marshal, Pakistan. Field Marshal is a very great guy, and so is the Prime Minister, both. And they're coming, and they may be in this room right now. I don't know, because we're late. And I said maybe they'd like to join they actually may be somewhere in the beautiful Oval Office. Yeah, please, behind you.
On Gaza, did you promise leaders this week that you would not allow Israel to annex the West Bank? Is that something that you
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did.
All you need is a boss call from Miriam, okay?
There's been enough. It's time to stop now. Okay?
Yeah, just like he wouldn't allow the Gaza Riviera. I'm going to end the genocide. I'm going to end the war. Nope.
Remember what I said? Is she a relation to the late, great Davy Crockett? I don't think so. Jasmine Crockett, let me tell you, before you even ask, she's a very low IQ person. I mean, if we ever had to pass an aptitude test, that's the one should take one, because she shouldn't even be in the. So I have no idea what you're going to. But I don't think we should waste it.
The radical Jasmine Crockett,
IQ
folks,
person who I can't even believe is a congressperson. Between her and Ilman Omar and the group, I met the head of Somalia. Did you know that? And I suggested that maybe he'd like to take her back, and he didn't want her. He said, "I don't want her." Okay, what else? Go ahead. Let's hear what Crockett said. Go ahead.
You compared ICE raids to slave patrol. I want to ask you.
To slave?
To slave patrol. I want to ask you if you think that there should be consequences for members of Congress.
There should be consequences for this correct comparison?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think she's gone over the line, and I think a lot of the people. Look, the Democrats have become radical left lunatics. They have policies that nobody's going to buy. And, I see what's going on in New York. We're going to have perhaps a communist mayor, because it's split up. If the people would get together and have one candidate, they'd have, I think, a pretty good chance. But it looks like maybe they're not going to do that. But we're going to end up with a communist mayor. It's not even believable, my beautiful New York. When I left New York to become president, it was a great place. But it was the beginning of bad things, because we had de Blasio had just started as mayor, and I said, this guy's a real nut job. Went to Harvard to teach management. Can you believe it? He went to Harvard to teach city management along with the mayor of Chicago, who went to Harvard to teach. The two of them are teaching how to manage a city into manage it into hell is what they do. But that was the beginning, and now we're going to go a step further. Now we're going with the communists. Can I be honest? I think it's the greatest thing to ever happen to the Republican Party.
Yeah? Why are you so bent then? Why are you so scared then?
If a communist takes over New York City, I think that's a gift.
They say this, but they don't actually believe it, weirdly enough. Because if they did, they wouldn't be doing everything in their power to try to try to basically consolidate power against Mamdani right now in the upcoming election.
That's a lot of questions.
You have a number of cities that are pushing back against your immigration deportation move as well as your crime initiatives. Some of those cities,
I don't think they're very much pushing
some of those
back.
cities have World Cup games.
Yeah.
Seattle, San Francisco.
They're going to be very secure.
But could those games move if they don't cooperate with your crime push?
Well, that's an interesting one, I guess, but we're going to make sure they're safe. They're run by radical left lunatics and that don't know what they're doing. Look at Washington, D.C. I just got numbers. There's like no crime in Washington, D.C. You, Jeff, will not be mugged walking down the street. You can walk down the street with your family. You can walk down your street with your wife, your daughter, your son, and you're not going to be. We took out 1,700 career criminals that we're not allowing back. And we have this city. There was a time when not long ago, when every single week you'd have at least one murder. And look what's happening with Washington. It's safe. I went to dinner in Washington just to prove a point. I gave a press conference in the middle of a street. I wouldn't say Secret Service was thrilled, but I did it, and here I am. Look, Washington, D.C. is such a great example of what can be done. We did it in 12 days. We made it very safe in 12 days, and now it's much safer than that. One other thing, I drove around Washington over the weekend, and I said, look at the difference. The grass looked great. Everything looked great. You know, we had a lot of our National Guard, and we didn't ask them to do it. They did it themselves. They're proud. They're great. And they were picking up paper. They were cleaning. The place looked really beautiful. So we have a great Washington, D.C. We, as you probably know, we're going into Memphis, and we're going into some other cities, and very soon we're going to go into Chicago. It will be safe for the World Cup. If I think it isn't safe, we'll move it into a different city. Absolutely, we'll take the World Cup. If I think it's not, it's actually a very fair question. If I think it's not safe, we're going to move it out of that city. If, like the governor of Illinois, who is, look, last week. Between last week and the week before, 11 murders, and 38 people were shot. Then he gets up and he says, this is a very safe, and then he says crime is better. The reason crime is better is because Cash put, about 5 months ago, a whole team of FBI people there to get ready for when we go in, and they've lowered it a little bit, like 20, 25%, which isn't good enough, but it's a good start. But that was only put there because they're preparing for us to go in. And they've done, by the way, they've done a good job. So then Pritzker gets up, we've lowered crime 25. It's because the FBI was there. So, no, if any city we think is going to be even a little bit dangerous for the World Cup or for the Olympics, where they have Olympic overthrow, right? But for the World Cup in particular, because they're playing in so many cities, we won't allow it to go we'll move it around a little bit. But I hope that's not going to happen, yeah.
Mr. President, Director Patel this morning indicated that the shooter in Dallas had been using an app to track ICE. Does your administration have any plans to take down those apps or get them removed?
Well, I can't tell you about that, but it tells you when they want to wear masks or they want to hide a little bit, why that's so important. These are great patriots, the ICE, and what a tough job they have. What an unbelievably tough job they have. And think of it, what are they doing? They're taking hardcore criminals out of our country and putting them back. These were largely criminals that were given to us by Joe Biden and his group of radical maniacs that surrounded this desk, just like these people surround the desk now, but they're not maniacs, they're pretty solid people.
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad I prefaced. But they're great. We have a great cabinet. We have great people. And he didn't have great people. He had terrible people. Look at Afghanistan. Look at the people he had running our military. That could happen. The most embarrassing day in the history of our country was Afghanistan. and 13 young people died. They don't ever talk about the 38 that were horribly wounded with legs and arms and everything else, really horribly wounded. So the country's respected like it's probably almost never been respected before. I think we're respected at a level, and a year ago it was a dead country. We had a dead country a year ago. This country was dying. It was really in bad shape. Let's talk about the next subject, can we?
One of the most powerful deterrents we have to violent crime is the death penalty. As you said, your administration has taken bold, decisive steps to ensure that Washington, D.C. is once again a safe and secure city for its residents and all who visit. This is a presidential memorandum that directs your Attorney General and your U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Judge Janine Pirro, to fully implement the death penalty here in Washington, D.C., where the evidence and facts of a case indicate that the death penalty should be used.
Okay? Everybody understand? Death penalty in Washington. You kill somebody, or if you kill a police officer, law enforcement officer, death penalty. And hopefully there won't be that. So again, it's way down. I mean, we have had a week where we haven't had a murder. I said that the other day in front of the president of Poland. The press was here, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to announce that Washington, D.C. has not had a death in 4 weeks, a murder. And he looked at me.
Yeah, he's going to sign the executive order to dismantle terrorist networks, and he's talking about PSL, DSA,
every week, essentially somebody
Twitch.tv/HasanAbi,
and
Jasmine Crockett,
right now.
the Democrat Party,
And
Governor
you know,
Gavin
it's interesting.
Newsom,
We took
Jimmy
these
Kimmel,
careers out. They're
ABC.
criminals. They call them careers. They left the word criminal out, but we took the careers out of here. And they're now brought back to their homes, or they're in jail, or they're in a jail in another country, and hopefully they're not coming back. And we have to maintain it. You can't just leave, and we have to maintain it. We've gotten along fairly well with the mayor. You know, she's getting a party that hates that the city's becoming safe. I mean, they're actually criticizing her because the city's becoming safe. But this is becoming this is right now a very, very safe city. This went from the most unsafe city in the country to the safest city in the country. There's no city any safer. That's a pretty big achievement. And we really did it in 12 days. But if you add an extra week to it, that'd be nice. And I mean, you can go out to dinner. Restaurants are booming. You know, the restaurants were dead. They were dead. Even if you got to the restaurant, then somebody would come in and hold you up. You know, they'd hold up the whole restaurant. They go to Uber. Young ladies in the White House, they'd call Uber for protection. They'd run to the car because they were petrified to be from the entrance of their building to the car. Now they feel safe. They're in the car, and then the car gets hijacked while they're in the back of the car. This is what we were living in. We were living in hell. People that work in the White House, every time they see me, young women in particular, say, thank you, sir. And I don't even ask them about what. I know exactly. I made their lives. Now they're living in a beautiful,
everywhere
glamorous
I
place
go, young women say
Washington,
thank
DC,
you.
with no crime, and that's the way it should be.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you for defending big balls. It's so good. I love it. I love the National Guard.
It's a very interesting capital punishment.
Don't be such a boomer.
Right? It's capital. But this is our capital city. We can't allow that to happen. People come in from Iowa to Memorial and they end up getting killed. It doesn't happen anymore. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen,
literally
it's the death
never
penalty for the person
happened.
that did it.
I'm almost. What are you talking about? People coming in from Iowa getting killed while they're looking at the Lincoln Memorial. Can you believe it, folks?
And as you saw very recently,
Every restaurant is under the control of Democrat Antifa black people.
their sentences off of death row. We're moving them to supermax facilities where they will be treated like they're on death row for the rest of their lives.
Why are you platforming this guy? I just really agree with his worldview.
Okay. I see some of you shaking your heads very positively. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, fellas.
You said on the campaign trail that
It said it. Yeah.
the death penalty is anybody illegal who killed a U.S. citizen
That's
or a
right.
police officer. So this just reinforces your campaign promise.
That's right. And most people really like it. And Washington, again, it's going to serve as a beacon because you have to do it. These are bad people. When you look at that guy, the guy that killed the young lady in the train in North Carolina, that he'll be in trial for years, years, years. He'll get a good lawyer somewhere along the line. Somebody will come along, and what he did to that young lady, and she went into that train scared. You know, when she went in, the way she sat down, she was scared to just be there. She just wanted to not pay any attention to anybody, just not be noticed. And she had her throat slit. We don't want that in this country anymore. We're not going to have it in this country anymore. Thank you very much. Next.
Lastly, sir, this is a presidential memorandum on countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. In recent weeks, months, and years, we've seen a tremendous upsurge in some highly visible but also other acts of domestic terrorism and organized political violence being perpetrated by radical politically motivated groups all over the country. What this presidential memorandum will do is set off an administration-wide response to that, ranging from the Joint Terrorism Task Forces to other components of the Department of Justice to the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Treasury. We're looking at interdicting these groups, preventing them from performing acts of violence, and also looking at sources of organization and funding and support that prop them up and allow them to do the acts that they have been doing.
We're looking at the funders of a lot of these groups, and you know, when you see the signs, and they're all beautiful signs made professionally. These aren't your protesters that make the sign in their basement late in the evening because they really believe it. These are anarchists and agitators, professional anarchists and agitators, and they get hired by wealthy people, some of whom I know, I guess, you know, probably know them. And you wouldn't know it. You're at dinner with them, everything's nice, and then you find out that they funded.
Bro, there is no fucking like
Steve,
we still have some semblance of law and order in this country, and these things you should never obey in advance. These things are completely fucking ridiculous. They are direct attacks against the First Amendment, and they will be combated every step of the way through the courts, okay?
That started with Black Lives Matter and all the way through to the Antifa riots, the attacks on ICE officers, the doxing campaigns, now the political assassinations. These are not lone, isolated events. This is part of an organized
This motherfucker watched Eddington, bro. We're so cooked. He watched Eddington. He was like, I saw the movie. They fly around in private jets.
Like this to anything else in the country right now. There is an entire system of feeder organizations that provide money, resources, weapons, and when they're attacking ICE officers, they're attacking
Courts ain't saving us? Yeah, until they're not, you still use them. Don't be silly.
Intimidation, and ultimately attempted assassination. It is all carefully planned, executed, and thought through. It is terrorism on our soil. Because of this executive order, Cash and Pam are going to have the tools they need, working with Scott, to take these organizations apart piece by piece.
It is illegal to subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service over the Twitch platform, folks. Can you believe it? The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored, he says, by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. That's right.
We are now going to
September, as long as the month continues, gifted subs over 5 gifts is 35% off. That's right. Subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service, they say. We will make it illegal. We will make it illegal. No ads. He runs no ads. Can you believe it? He runs no ads at the Piker Broadcasting Service, and people still voluntarily give him subscriptions in the form of a Twitch Prime for free, or a $6 a month subscription.
And organized violence across
Omnitech, thank you for the 10 gifted. Ren, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. The Gravy, thank you for the 5. And Captain Ajax for the 10 community gifted subs. Why do you play ads again? I don't know why people still do this. Wow, no ads, wow, everything computer, everything, everybody transgender.
Perpetrating our criminal activities across our societies, and we are just so thankful for your leadership and recognition of it. It's not easy to do.
Good job. Thank you very much,
Who
Pam.
specifically do you want to target?
What?
Besides Antifa, is there a specific group or person you're targeting in this?
Any organized group. Any organized group who are committing these crimes, and we're working with the Secretary of Treasury. You know what law enforcement has told us under President Trump's leadership? He's taken the handcuffs off law enforcement. They can do their jobs now, thanks to you, President Trump, and that's what's happening. And all of these agencies that Cash mentioned, we work hand in hand together. Our prosecutors were following the money with Treasury. We're working with Homeland Security. Cash's agents, all of our agents, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, combined are working, and with state and local government, to take these people off the streets who are jeopardizing lives.
Can I just illustrate this? So I was talking with Cash and Stephen about this a couple of days ago, sir. So I believe it was in Oregon where you had a federal building where there were men in black ski masks who were committing acts of violence, who were shutting down a government building. To the president's point, they don't come from nowhere. These are paid people. This is organized. They're committing acts of political terrorism on American soil. And it's time we had a government that looked out for the American people rather than the people who are committing violence against the American people.
Fascism is colonialism.
When you go out to
turned
Portland
inward.
and you see what's happening in Portland,
Fascism is colonialism turned inward.
And this is going on for years.
That's what's going on. Terrorism as a designation, which was intentionally vague, allowed the American administrations prior to this one, and certainly this one as well, to engage in acts of unjustifiable violence against people, extrajudicial acts of violence, death, destruction, bombing entire sovereign nations. And now that designation is turning on American citizens at the domestic level. If we do not put an end to this through the court process, we are completely fucked. If we do not put an end to this by making our discontent be known, we are completely fucked.
Wow, these are crazy
Why
people.
You defend this?
And
Wait,
they're trying
what?
to burn down buildings, including
Defend
federal
this?
buildings. And on my list of things that I want to do before we finish up with the cities, because I think we're going to whip the cities back into shape, and we have to. We cannot let our cities, and that's a small example, but it's the most violent example. It's every night, and they've done it for years. You think maybe at some point they made their point, and what are they doing? But we're going to get out there, and we're going to do a pretty big number of those people in Portland that are doing that. They're professional agitators and anarchists. They're actually anarchists, yeah. Go ahead, why don't you defend? Let's see you defend them, Jeff.
No, I'm not defending anyone. I just want, so that we can just explain this in our stories, could you name a couple?
You don't explain it right, though, Jeff. Go ahead, let's go. Maybe let's give you another chance. Go ahead.
Antifa, Soros, what names are we talking about?
Well, Soros is a name certainly that I keep hearing. I don't know, but Soros is a name that I hear. I hear a lot of different names. I hear names of some pretty rich people that are radical left people. Maybe I hear about a guy named Reid Hoffman. Somebody's a pretty rich guy, I guess, and I hear about him. I don't know. Maybe could be him. Could be a lot of people. We hear the same names, but they're bad, and we're going to find out. And if they are funding these things, they're going to have some problems because they're agitators and they're anarchists. These are anarchists. Really bad. Okay, yeah, please.
Mr. President, can you comment on
Who you with? Who you with?
I'm with the Center Square. Sarah Rodriguez is my name. Sarah, there's also, as you know, Antifa is not just a domestic terror, or now a domestic terror organization. It's also international. I know the Netherlands is looking at also designating them a terror organization. Have you been working with your intel community and your DNI to possibly expand that to making them designated an international terror organization?
Yeah, we have been. Yep. It's an international in many cases.
Yeah, Reid Hoffman is the founder of LinkedIn, which is terrorism of a different sort, not the kind that Trump is talking about.
Well, I'd say the maximum under the law, and we'll see. Now, if they kill somebody, we just signed a death penalty, so it depends where it is. But if they kill somebody, which they do, I mean, people are dying. You go out to Portland, people die out there. Many people have died over the years in Portland. Portland is, I don't know how anybody lives there. It's amazing.
Everyone is dying. Everybody dead in
Portland.
Portland.
That's what they want. They want anarchy, like when they attacked Seattle and took over a big percentage of the city. I was going to go out, and we were going to do a big number. They heard that, and everybody broke up all of a sudden. But, you know, you have governors that have to run that, and a lot of them don't do that. I don't like to go in. I'd rather have Pritzker's support when we go into Chicago. But if we don't have it, that's okay, too, because we're paramount, and we will do what we have to do. We're going to make Chicago safe. We're going to make we're going to make as many as we can, and usually that involves a surge. But what we did with, in the case of Chicago, by having the FBI go out there 5 or 6 months ago, we brought it down a little bit. You know, a little bit is 25%, so it's not so little, but it is when you're talking about the kind of crime and killings and murders that you hear in Chicago. But we're going to get it. Chicago's a great city. As the Union Pacific said, the head of the Union Pacific, who's a great guy, started off as a low-rung guy. He said he started at a caboose, and now he's the chairman of the Union Pacific. But he's a great guy. But he said, "Sir, don't lose Chicago." The way he said it, I said, boy, it really hit me. You know, here's a man that knows all the cities. The Union Pacific, I guess, is our largest railroad, and he knows all the cities. He's been doing it for 45 years, and he said, "Sir, don't lose Chicago." And the way he said that meant a lot to me, and we're going to go into Chicago very soon. We're going to take care of Memphis. We're going to take care of Memphis. You can't
I can't
walk a
believe
block
how
without getting
normalized
shot.
this is,
We're
dude.
going
I
to take
really
care of that
can't.
one, and just like we did
Like,
Washington,
it is
D.C.
wild. He's just talking about deploying the military to major American metropolitan cities while simultaneously saying that anyone and everyone that organizes protests against this kind of action, for example, is literally a terrorist and will be, like, will have their assets seized, will have their lives ruined, will be prosecuted. And, like, because of the way that the media operates now, in an effort to just simply be in the room, they just have to suck his dick throughout this entire sequence of events. What the hell?
I'm not going to comment on whether there is or is not a pending investigation, but everything's on the table right now.
I don't think anybody has to ask, because if you look at Soros, he's at the top of every. In fact, sometimes they say, could he be involved in this many things? But he's in every story that I read. Stories that I read keep talking about Soros, and so you know, I guess he'd be a likely candidate. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
Bro, the dude is like 750, by the way.